They say you can never go back to your childhood, but sometimes your childhood comes back to haunt you. We all have those magical Disney moments burned into our memory, singing along to Under the Sea, cheering for Beast's transformation, gasping when Mufasa falls. But when you watch these movies as an adult, especially as a parent, you start noticing things that make you go, wait, did they really just show that to kids? Some of these moments will completely change how you see your childhood favorite. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Literally, Dumbo came with a scene Disney has been desperately trying to erase from history. Remember the crows? Those jive-talking birds who taught Dumbo to fly? The lead crow was literally named Jim Crow. Yes, like the segregation laws. And if you listen to their voices today, it's impossible to miss what Disney was really doing. They were blatant racial caricatures that would never survive 5 seconds in today's world. What makes this even worse is that the crows were actually helpful characters who genuinely cared about Dumbo. Disney literally made their racist caricatures the heroes of the story. They gave them warmth, wisdom, and emotional depth, as if saying, see, we can make these stereotypes likable, so the racism doesn't count. It's possibly the most insidious form of racial coding ever put in a children's movie. But Dumbo's crows are just the tip of the iceberg. The Little Mermaid gave us one of Disney's most beloved princesses. But here's what nobody talks about. Ariel is 16 years old. 16. And she's making life-altering decisions to marry a man she's never even spoken to. This 16-year-old gives up her voice, her family, and her entire identity for a guy she saw once on a boat. We called this romantic? This is basically a horror movie about a teenage girl making the worst decisions imaginable. And here's what's even more disturbing. Ursula specifically targets Ariel because she's young and vulnerable. The sea witch is literally a predator, grooming a confused teenager. She exploits Ariel's daddy issues, her desperation to fit in with humans, and her romantic delusions about a complete stranger. Every line Ursula speaks is textbook manipulation. Isolating Ariel from her support system, making her doubt her father's love, convincing her that sacrificing everything for a man is romantic. When you watch those scenes now, Ursula isn't just a villain, she's using every manipulation tactic in the book. Speaking of problematic relationships, Beauty and the Beast gave us the most disturbing case of Stockholm Syndrome ever marketed to children. Belle falls in love with her kidnapper, someone who imprisoned her father and then imprisoned her. He has violent rage episodes, destroys property when angry, and controls every aspect of her life. But because he owns books and transforms into a pretty face, we're supposed to call this love? What's particularly twisted is how everyone around them enables the abuse. The enchanted objects constantly make excuses for Beast's violence. He's really not that bad. You just need to understand him. This is textbook abuser apologism being fed to children as entertainment. They literally created a support system that gaslights the victim while protecting the abuser. Mrs. Potts and Lumiere spend the entire movie convincing Belle that Beast's rage is her fault, that she needs to be more patient, more understanding. It's psychological manipulation disguised as whimsical musical numbers. Then there's Peter Pan, which contains the most racist sequence Disney ever put on screen. The "What Makes the Red Man Red" scene isn't just culturally insensitive, it's a full-blown minstrel show targeting Native Americans. The lyrics literally theorize about why indigenous people have red skin, complete with broken English and savage war whoops. This wasn't an oversight. This was deliberate mockery. But Peter Pan's racism goes even deeper. Captain Hook is villainized specifically because he's disabled. His prosthetic hand makes him the monster. Meanwhile, Peter is actually a sociopathic kidnapper who steals children, traps them in eternal childhood, and abandons anyone who bores him. He literally commits child trafficking, and we're supposed to think it's magical. The Lost Boys aren't having adventures, they're trauma victims, with Stockholm Syndrome, convinced their captor is their savior. Yet we're supposed to root for the child trafficker over the disabled pirate. Aladdin promised to show us a whole new world, but that world was built on harmful Middle Eastern stereotypes. The opening song originally included the line about cutting off ears, describing the Middle East as a barbaric wasteland. Disney quietly changed the lyrics after complaints, but the damage was done. The movie also gave us Jafar, whose design played into every negative stereotype about Middle Eastern men being villainous, while Aladdin and Jasmine were drawn with more European features. The irony is that Aladdin was Disney's attempt at cultural diversity, but it reinforced the very stereotypes it should have been challenging. The marketplace scenes turn an entire region's culture into a carnival sideshow. And the movie treats poverty problematically. Aladdin steals to survive, but once he gets magic powers, theft becomes charming and consequence-free. The Jungle Book gave us Baloo and that infectious song, but it also gave us King Louie, an orangutan who speaks in African-American vernacular English and desperately wants to become human. The implications are deeply uncomfortable when you think about the historical context of comparing black people to apes. Louis Prima's performance was meant to be entertaining, but the subtext is absolutely horrifying when you understand the racist history behind it. Disney took one of the most painful stereotypes used to dehumanize Black Americans and turned it into a catchy musical number for children. What's even more troubling is that King Louie doesn't exist in Kipling's original stories. Disney created him specifically for the movie. They made a conscious choice to add a character that would embody these problematic racial undertones. This wasn't accidental racism. This was deliberate. Disney executives sat in meetings, approved this character design, approved the voice casting, approved the lyrics about an ape wanting to be human, and thought, yes, this is perfect for children. What happened next might shock you even more. Lady and the Tramp included the infamous Siamese cat scene, complete with exaggerated buck teeth, slanted eyes, and broken English. These cats were portrayed as sneaky, destructive foreign threats to the wholesome American household. It's Asian stereotyping so blatant that Disney completely removed the scene from their 2019 remake. But those of us who wore out the VHS tape remember every cringe-worthy moment. The Siamese cats represented the foreign invasion anxiety of the 1950s America. They arrive, cause chaos, and blame the innocent American pets. Basically, xenophobia disguised as a cute animal sequence. Even Fantasia, Disney's supposed high art masterpiece, contained a segment called The Pastoral Symphony that originally featured black centaurettes serving the white ones. These characters were later completely removed from all releases. But early viewers saw Disney's vision of a racially segregated mythological world. The fact that they thought this was appropriate for a children's movie about classical music speaks volumes about the mindset of the time. Snow White, the movie that started it all, gave us Disney's first princess and their first problematic message about women. Snow White's entire personality can be summed up as cleaning lady who waits for a man to save her. She has no goals, no dreams, no agency whatsoever. Her idea of asserting independence is doing housework for 7 men she just met. And she's supposed to be 14 years old, making her romance with an adult prince even more uncomfortable. Snow White's passivity becomes even more disturbing when you realize she's fleeing from an abusive stepmother who wants her dead, and her response is to clean house for strangers. The movie teaches young girls that when faced with mortal danger, the appropriate response is to find new people to serve. She doesn't seek help, doesn't try to reclaim her throne, doesn't even seem bothered that someone is trying to murder her. The more you dig into these classics, the more you realize how perspectives have shifted. Cinderella's stepfamily was physically and emotionally abusive, yet the movie treats this as a minor obstacle rather than serious trauma. Sleeping Beauty's Aurora spends most of her movie unconscious, and her prince kisses her without consent while she's comatose. Try explaining that to your kids today. Speaking of Sleeping Beauty, let's talk about how True Love's kiss has aged. Prince Philip has met Aurora exactly once, for about 5 minutes, when they were children. Yet his kiss is considered true love, enough to break a powerful curse. The movie essentially says that romantic love between strangers is more powerful than the love Aurora's fairy godmothers have shown her for 16 years. These movies weren't created with malicious intent. The animators, writers, and Walt Disney himself genuinely believed they were creating magical entertainment for children. They were products of their time, reflecting the attitudes and blind spots of their era. The problem is that we've been showing them to kids for generations, without context, without acknowledging how much we've learned since then. Disney has been quietly grappling with this legacy for years. They've added content warnings to some films on Disney Plus, completely remade others with more sensitivity, and removed the most problematic scenes from newer releases. But they're walking a tightrope. How do you acknowledge the problems without destroying the magic that made these movies special? The company has tried different approaches, adding disclaimers, quietly editing out problematic parts, or completely remaking movies with modern sensibilities. But none feel perfect because they're solving a problem without a clean answer. How do you preserve cultural history while protecting children from harmful messages? The truth is, we can love these movies and still recognize their flaws. We can appreciate the groundbreaking animation, the memorable songs, and the childhood joy they brought us, while also teaching our kids to think critically about the messages they contain. That's what growing up means: learning to hold complexity, to love imperfect things while working to do better. Maybe the real magic isn't in pretending these movies are perfect, but in finally admitting what we all suspected: Disney was hiding some seriously messed up messages in plain sight. When you see the crows in Dumbo, you're witnessing deliberate racial mockery. When Ariel throws away her life for a stranger, you're watching the normalization of destructive teenage obsession. These Disney classics shaped our childhoods in ways both wonderful and problematic. They gave us our first taste of romance, adventure, and the belief that dreams can come true. But they also taught us some lessons we're still trying to unlearn. The magic doesn't have to be lost, but maybe it's time we watched these movies with our eyes wide open, ready to have the conversations our parents never thought to have with us. That's the real magic of growing up. Learning to see our childhood favorites not as perfect artifacts, but as stepping stones that helped us become the more thoughtful people we are today. And maybe that's the most Disney ending of all: using the past to build a better future.